All right, so we're talking about the zero product property practice, and we're talking about this equation, 5x squared plus 9x equals negative 12. They want you to solve, okay? So the first thing we need to do is first set it equal to 0. So what's that first step again? Yep, you're going to add 12 to both sides because we need to move the 12 to the other side. So you have to do the inverse operation. So I'm going to add 12 on the left. I'm going to add 12 on the right. Now 12 is not a 12x, it's not a 12x squared. So because of that, I just have to put them next to each other. So I'm just going to say 5x squared plus 19x plus 12 equals 0. Okay, and I like to put it in the form ax squared plus ax squared plus bx plus c. Putting it in that form allows us to factor it better. Okay, so the x squared first, then the one with just the x, and then the constant by itself at the end equals 0. Okay, now because we have a 5 here in the front, I'm going to do something called factor by grouping. I like doing that method. It works really easy with these problems, so that's why I like doing it. So in order to do that, I'm going to say 5 times 12. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the coefficient of the first term times the last term. So I'm going to say 5 times 12. What's 5 times 12? Yes, it is 60. So I write 60 down, and then I'm looking for factors of 60 that would add to give me my middle term, and my middle term is 19. So let's list the factors of 60, sorry, 60. What are the factors of 60? You want the pairs, so you want 2 times what? Right, and then 1 times what? Right, you want to put the pairs next to each other because it has to be 2 pairs that multiply to give you 60. 3 times what will give you 60? That's okay, yeah. Does 4 go into 60? Try it out. Anything else? Does 5 go into 60? What about 6? What about 7? No. What about 8? Okay, what about 9? And then we get to 10 and we go back up the list. So we've got them all. So you're looking for 2 factors that will add to give you 19x. It's either add or subtract, but because all of these are positive, we know specifically this right here, because the 12 is positive, we know that it's going to be add to give us 19. So which one of those adds to give us 19? And what I'm going to do, I'm just putting an x next to all these factors because they all have an x with them. So did you write down the list, or you didn't write down the list when we were going through them? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and tell you 4 times 15 because 4 plus 15 is 19, right? 4 plus 15 is 19. So those are the two factors that multiply together to give you 60, but they add to give you 19. So now I'm going to rewrite my problem. Pay attention. I'm going to say 5x squared, and then I'm going to say plus 4x. Instead of saying 19x, I'm going to replace the 19x with the two numbers that add to give us 19. So I'm going to say plus 4x, then I'm going to say plus 15x, right? And then I'm going to bring down the plus 12 equals 0. So the only thing I did was I rewrote the 19 to 4x and 15x. So the 19x now becomes 14x plus 15x. You okay so far? And then this is when the grouping comes in. This is when I group the first two terms together. So the 5x squared plus 4x I group together. And then I group the last two terms together, the 15x plus 12 together. And then I say, what does 5x squared and 4x have in common? Well, the 5 and the 4 don't have anything in common. They don't have any common factors besides 1, so that doesn't count. But if I look at the x squared and the x, one has an x squared, which is 2 x's. The other one just has 1 x. So I can divide out one of those x's. I can factor one of those x's out. Does that make sense? Okay. So x squared is the same thing as saying x times x. Do you agree? So if I say x times x, if I divide x times x divided by x, do you remember your properties of exponents? Okay, well, let's just do it this way. If I broke down x squared, it's x times x, right? And 4x, so you have 5x squared. I can rewrite 5x squared to be 5 times x times x. You agree? And I can rewrite the 4x to be just 4x because it's just 4 times x, right? So now you see that both of them, the 5xx and the 4x, they both have one x in common. Do you see that now? So because of that, I can divide them by x, which is pretty much saying like 4 divided by 4 is 1, right? 2 divided by 2 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. X divided by x is 1. So I can factor out the x. And then what happens is when I divide out the x from the 5xx, I'm left with just 5x inside the parentheses. And I'm going to share with you this recording so you can kind of see how I did it. And then I'm also going to divide an x. So I'm going to divide an x from the 5x squared because they have that in common. I'm going to divide an x from the 4x because they have that in common. So I'm going to have x outside the parentheses. Then I'm going to open a parentheses. I'm going to put 5x plus 4. Then I'm going to close the parentheses. And then I'm going to say plus. And then I'm going to look at 15x and 12 and see what they have in common. Well, 15 and 12, they are both factors. They both have 3 as a factor. So I can pull 3 out. That's the greatest common factor I see with them. So if I pull the 3 out, that means I'm going to divide 15x by 3. I'm going to divide 12 by 3. So I'm going to put the 3 outside the parentheses. I'm going to open parentheses. And then I'm going to put 15x divided by 3, which is 5x, inside the parentheses. And then I'm going to say 12 divided by 3, which is 4. I'm going to put plus 4 inside the parentheses. So what I have now is x, open parentheses, 5x plus 4, close parentheses, plus 3, open parentheses, 5x plus 4, close parentheses. Do you have that written on your paper? Oh, you're going to write it down? That's good. And then what you would do is you would put parentheses around a 5x squared and a 4x, and then parentheses around the 15x and the 12. And then you would put under there that you divide out the x. So that's where you put the x on the outside. And then you put what's left inside the parentheses, 5x plus 4. Because that's what I did with the 5x squared and the 4x that you just put in parentheses. I took the x that they had in common and I pulled it out of the parentheses. I factored it out. And so now the next line would be x, open parentheses, 5x plus 4, close parentheses, plus 3, open parentheses, 5x plus 4, close parentheses. Now, when I looked at the 15x and the 12, those are the other two that you put parentheses around, right? And that step above. 15 and 12 both have 3 in common. That's their greatest common factor, 3. So I pulled the 3 out. So that's why I put the 3 outside the parentheses, and then I open parentheses, and 15x divided by 3 is 5x. So I put the 5x in the parentheses, plus, then 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I put the 4 inside the parentheses and then close the parentheses. And then equals 0. I think when you see that how I worked it out, it'll make more sense too. So I'm going to share this recording with you as soon as I'm done. Now, what do you notice about what's inside the parentheses? Can you tell me what you notice about what's inside the parentheses? Oh, we're not at the final answer yet, but you're writing down that step. Uh-huh. No, there's no subtracting anywhere. I divided out the 3 from the 5x, from the 15x. So I'm looking for the greatest common factor. So when I looked at the 15x plus 12, do you see the 15x plus 12? I said, what do they both have in common? So 15 and 12 both have a 3 in common. So I divide the 15x by 3. Five x, because it's 15x divided by 3. Yes, exactly. So you would have 5x plus 4 in that second group of parentheses. Yes, you see it. You have the 5x plus 4 repeated twice. So in the next step, what you do is you pull out that 5x plus 4, right? So I'm going to say the 5x plus 4. I'm going to put that in the next step in parentheses. So I'm going to say open parentheses, 5x plus 4, close parentheses. And then what's left, that was outside the parentheses, the x plus 3, I put that in another set of parentheses. So I'm going to open parentheses and say x plus 3. Now I factored it, equals 0. Now, I didn't solve it yet. I just finished factoring. So let me know when you finish writing that down. No, open parentheses. So you have open parentheses, 5x plus 4, close parentheses. right? And then there's no plus or anything in between the parentheses. You open parentheses again, and then you say x plus 3, close parentheses. Oh, wait, I thought you were in a different step. Say that again. It shouldn't be x plus 3. It should just be plus 3, parenthesis, 5x plus 4, parenthesis. Great, yes. And then a step after that, the next step, that's when you put parenthesis, 5x plus 4, parenthesis, and then parenthesis again, x plus 3, parenthesis, equals 0. All right, so now this is when you use the zero product property to solve it. So I'm going to say that 5, I'm going to split it up. So I'm going to say 5x plus 4 equals 0. And then I'm going to say x plus 3 equals 0. These are two different equations. I'm going to solve for x. So for the 5x plus 4 equals 0, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And I'm going to get 5x equals negative 4. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And x is going to be equal to negative 4 over 5. So that's one solution. Then I'm going to go over to the x plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I get x equals negative 3. And that's my other solution. And then we're done.